The sky above the uncharted planet was a deep shade of purple, its stars twinkling like distant fireflies. The human exploration ship, the Voyager, flew smoothly through the atmosphere, its engines humming softly. Inside, the pilot, Alex Carter, checked the controls with practiced ease. Alex had spent years training for moments like this, when the unknown was just a system away, waiting to be explored. But today was different. Today, something went wrong. The ship trembled, and alarms blared loudly, breaking the peaceful hum of the engines. Alex's heart raced as they frantically adjusted the ship's controls. "Come on," they muttered, sweat beading on their forehead. The ship dipped sharply, and the control panels flickered as if mocking their efforts. The malfunction was sudden, too fast for Alex to fully comprehend. The ship was no longer responding to the commands. With a sinking feeling, Alex realized the worst had happened. They were going to crash. The forested landscape of the planet below quickly grew closer. Trees and massive, thick vines were spread across the planet's surface, their green leaves shimmering in the pale light. Alex had no choice but to steer the ship toward a small clearing in the dense jungle. With a deep breath, they pulled the emergency thrusters and tried to slow the descent. But it wasn't enough. The ship slammed into the ground with a violent crash, throwing Alex against the safety harness. Everything went black. When Alex came to, their head was throbbing, and the world seemed to spin around them. Blinking against the pain, they slowly sat up, groaning. The ship's interior was dark, except for the faint emergency lights blinking in the corners. The ship's walls were dented, and the control panels were shattered, with smoke curling out from the wreckage. Alex quickly unbuckled the safety harness and climbed out of the cockpit. "Great," Alex muttered, stumbling as they checked their surroundings. The ship was wrecked, and there was no sign of the rest of the crew. They had to be on their own now. Through the shattered windows, Alex could see thick trees towering in the distance. The jungle looked alive, its green foliage whispering in the wind. There was no time to waste. The comms were down. The ship was inoperable, and there was no telling how long the wreckage would last. With a sigh, Alex grabbed a survival pack from the emergency storage compartment and opened the door. They had to find shelter. The air outside was thick, humid, and the smell of fresh vegetation mixed with something faintly metallic in the air. Alex hesitated for only a moment before stepping out onto the soft, moss-covered ground. The jungle was alive with sound. Birds chirped in the distance, and the air buzzed with the hum of insects. Something felt off, though. There was an unsettling energy here, like the land itself was watching. "Focus," Alex told themselves. They weren't going to panic. They couldn't. They had a job to do. They were a trained explorer, and survival was their specialty. After a quick scan of the area, Alex moved toward a cluster of trees. Their survival training had taught them to always head for higher ground, where they could assess the situation better and get a clearer view. The jungle's dense foliage made it hard to see far, but Alex pressed on, making sure to leave marks on the trees as they moved, just in case they needed to find their way back to the ship later. As they walked, they kept an eye out for any wildlife. They'd been briefed on the planet's potential hazards, but there was still so much they didn't know. The reports had mentioned strange creatures, some of which had never been seen by human eyes. They could only guess what dangers lurked in the shadows of this alien jungle. The ground beneath Alex's feet was soft, with a strange, squishy texture that made each step feel like walking on a sponge. The trees here were unlike anything they had ever seen. Tall and thick, their bark shimmering with a silvery hue. Some of the leaves glowed faintly in the dim light, casting an eerie, otherworldly glow across the jungle floor. Just as Alex was about to push forward, a faint sound caught their attention. It was soft at first, barely noticeable, but then it grew louder, like something moving through the trees. Alex froze, heart racing. Something was out there. They ducked behind a large tree trunk, trying to remain as quiet as possible. The sound came closer, and Alex's mind raced through every possibility. Could it be one of the creatures they had read about? Or worse, was it another ship? Another rescue team? Or... Then, out of the shadows, a figure emerged. It was unlike anything Alex had expected. The creature was tall, with skin that shimmered like the surface of water, glowing faintly in the dim jungle light. Her eyes were bright, almost too bright, and they seemed to glow with a curious, intelligent energy. She moved gracefully, almost as if she was one with the jungle itself. Alex's breath caught in their throat. This wasn't just any creature. This was an alien. The figure paused, sensing something in the air, her eyes scanning the jungle. Alex held their breath, unsure whether they should run or stay hidden. Every instinct screamed at them to move, but something about the alien's presence kept them rooted to the spot. What should they do now? Alex's heart raced as they stared at the glowing figure in the jungle. The alien stood motionless, her luminous eyes scanning the surroundings with a curious intensity. She was tall, at least a foot taller than Alex, with smooth, shimmering skin that reflected the soft light of the jungle. Her features were delicate, almost ethereal, but there was an undeniable strength in the way she carried herself. For a moment, Alex could only stare, completely mesmerized by the alien's presence. She didn't look hostile, quite the opposite, in fact. There was something peaceful about her, yet something wild as well. She moved with the grace of an apex predator, but there was a calmness about her, like she was completely in control of her environment. Then, the silence was broken. A strange, melodic sound escaped from the alien's lips. It was soft, almost like a whisper, but there was a rhythm to it that felt almost human. Alex couldn't understand what she was saying, but somehow it felt like a greeting. A part of them wanted to step forward, to try to communicate, but another part of them was frozen with fear. "Stay calm," Alex whispered to themselves, slowly reaching for the survival pack on their back. They didn't want to make any sudden moves and risk provoking this alien. They had no idea what she was capable of. The alien's eyes locked onto Alex, and for a brief moment, the world seemed to stand still. She tilted her head slightly, studying them. Alex wasn't sure if it was curiosity or something more that drove the alien's gaze, but there was no mistaking that she was aware of their presence. Then, without warning, she moved. In one fluid motion, she stepped forward, her feet barely making a sound as they touched the jungle floor. Alex instinctively took a step back, their hand going to the survival pack's strap, ready for whatever came next. But the alien didn't attack. Instead, she paused, only a few feet away, her bright eyes scanning Alex from head to toe. Her gaze was intense, but it wasn't threatening. She seemed interested. She raised a hand slowly, palm facing Alex, as if to signal peace. "Who are you?" Alex asked, their voice barely above a whisper. The question was out before they could think, and they immediately regretted it. What if she didn't understand? What if she didn't want to communicate at all? To Alex's surprise, the alien seemed to understand. Her eyes flickered, and the soft, melodic sound came again, this time with a clearer rhythm. She wasn't speaking any language Alex knew, but the tone was different this time. Softer, more welcoming. Alex's heart skipped a beat. This was it. They had to make a decision now. Try to communicate or risk making things worse. Slowly, Alex reached into their survival pack and pulled out the translator device, an advanced piece of tech that had been designed to help with alien encounters. It was their best chance at making contact, but there was a problem. The device had only been tested on languages of known species, not something like this. Still, it was better than nothing. With shaky hands, Alex activated the translator and held it up between them and the alien. The device hummed to life, its screen flashing briefly before projecting a holographic image of a simple map. The alien's eyes locked onto the device, and she stepped forward again, closer this time. Alex took a deep breath, and tapped a few buttons on the translator, trying to select the option that might best convey their intentions. The device's voice crackled to life, its robotic tone speaking the words that Alex could only hope would make sense to the alien. "I am Alex. I come in peace." The alien's head tilted, her glowing eyes narrowing slightly as she processed the message. For a moment, there was a tense silence. Then the alien spoke again. This time, the words sounded different, more fluid. The translator hummed again, but the words that came out were distorted and unclear. The device couldn't catch all of them, only fragments. Alex felt a wave of frustration. This wasn't going to be easy. But then, something unexpected happened. The alien lowered her hand slowly, her expression softening. There was no anger, no fear, just curiosity. She wasn't hostile. She was trying to understand. "Peace," the alien said, her voice a soft whisper. She repeated the word, looking directly at Alex. Alex stared in shock. "You speak?" they asked, incredulous. The alien nodded once, slowly. "Peace," she repeated again, her tone gentle. A rush of relief flooded through Alex. She understood them, or at least, she understood the word they had said. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Alex took another step back, lowering the translator. "I'm lost. My ship crashed," they said, pointing toward the wreckage in the distance. "Can you help me?" The alien didn't immediately respond. Instead, she glanced in the direction Alex had pointed, then back at them. She didn't seem frightened by the wreckage. Instead, she appeared thoughtful, as if weighing her options. Finally, she nodded again. Slowly, deliberately. "Help," she said, the word coming out clearly. "You, come." Alex's eyes widened. "You'll help me." The alien's expression softened as she turned and began walking away, her movements smooth and silent. She glanced back over her shoulder, her eyes glowing softly. "Come," she repeated. Without another word, Alex followed. They had no idea where this strange encounter would lead, but one thing was clear. This alien wasn't the danger they had feared. In fact, she might just be the key to surviving this uncharted planet. Alex followed the alien through the dense jungle, their steps cautious yet filled with a sense of hope. The towering trees loomed above them, their leaves rustling softly in the breeze. The air was thick with humidity, but Alex hardly noticed it now. Their focus was entirely on the glowing figure ahead. The alien's movements were graceful, almost like a dancer moving effortlessly through the thick vegetation. She seemed to know exactly where she was going, never hesitating as she stepped over fallen logs and around thick vines. Alex, on the other hand, had to be careful, trying to keep up while avoiding tripping on the uneven ground. As they walked, Alex couldn't help but observe the alien closely. Her skin was smooth and shimmering, almost like liquid silver. Her eyes, bright and alert, were constantly scanning the surroundings, but she never looked back at Alex. She seemed comfortable in the jungle, at home in a way that Alex couldn't begin to understand. "How do you live here?" Alex finally asked, their curiosity getting the better of them. "Is this your home?" The alien didn't answer immediately. She paused, glancing at Alex for a moment before continuing her path through the jungle. There was something unreadable in her expression. She wasn't speaking much, but the word peace had been clear enough. Perhaps she didn't want to reveal too much just yet, or maybe words weren't her preferred form of communication. The jungle around them seemed alive with sounds, chirping insects, distant calls of unseen creatures, and the occasional rustle of leaves. Alex could feel their senses on high alert, aware that they were far from civilization. Yet there was something calming about the alien's presence, as if she could protect them from whatever dangers might be lurking. Minutes turned into hours, and the dense jungle began to give way to a more open area. The ground beneath Alex's feet became less uneven, and the trees parted, revealing a small clearing. In the center of the clearing was a structure, a large, elegant building made of smooth, organic materials. It looked as if it had grown out of the land itself, blending perfectly with the surrounding jungle. Vines and plants wrapped around its surface, as though nature had taken its time to embrace it. Alex stopped in their tracks, amazed by what they were seeing. "What is this place?" they asked, their voice full of wonder. The alien glanced at the structure but didn't answer right away. Instead, she moved toward the entrance, her feet barely touching the ground as she approached. The door, if it could be called that, seemed to open on its own, the vines parting gently as if welcoming her home. She turned to face Alex, her glowing eyes catching the light. "Home," she said simply. Alex nodded slowly, feeling a sense of awe wash over them. This alien was different from anything they had imagined. Not only was she kind enough to help them, but she lived in harmony with the planet, in a way Alex could only dream of. As they stepped inside, Alex was struck by how different the interior of the building was. It wasn't like any structure they had encountered before. The walls were smooth, made of a material that seemed both organic and solid at the same time. It was warm inside, but not uncomfortable, with a soft, golden glow emanating from the walls. The air smelled sweet, like fresh flowers after a rain. The alien led Alex into the center of the room, where there was a soft, glowing platform. She motioned for Alex to sit, and they did so without hesitation. Despite the strange surroundings, they felt a strange sense of calm settle over them. "You're not afraid of me?" the alien asked, her voice soft yet curious. Alex looked up at her, surprised by the question. "I should be," they admitted, "but I'm not. I can sense that you mean no harm." The alien nodded as if she understood. "Peace," she repeated, sitting down next to Alex. She studied him with those glowing eyes, her expression unreadable. There was something comforting about her presence, a quiet strength that Alex couldn't explain. They sat in silence for a while, Alex taking in their surroundings and trying to make sense of the situation. They had crashed on an unknown planet, met an alien, and now, somehow, were sitting in her home. They should have been terrified, but there was something about this alien that made them feel safe. The longer they stayed, the more Alex realized they had no idea where they were, what this place was, or what would happen next. The uncertainty was overwhelming, but they had to trust the alien for now. She was their only chance at survival. "So, what now?" Alex finally asked, breaking the silence. "How do we fix my ship? Can you help me get back home?" The alien's gaze softened, but she didn't respond right away. She seemed to be considering something. Then, with a calm motion, she reached out and touched Alex's arm gently. It was the first time she had made physical contact, and Alex was surprised by how warm her touch was. "Rest," she said simply. "Tomorrow, we try." Alex nodded, feeling a sense of relief. They hadn't realized how exhausted they were until that moment. The journey through the jungle, the crash, the encounter with the alien, it had all taken a toll on them. "Thank you," Alex whispered, looking at the alien with gratitude. "I don't know what I would have done without you." She simply smiled, if it could be called that, and nodded. Then they both sat in silence, waiting for the night to pass, unsure of what the next day would bring. The soft glow of the alien building's walls bathed the room in a warm light, signaling the arrival of morning. Alex had barely slept, their mind racing with thoughts of the strange planet, the alien, and what might come next. They had never imagined they would find themselves in a situation like this, lost on an uncharted world, alone except for the alien who had shown them nothing but kindness. As Alex slowly opened their eyes, they saw the alien sitting cross-legged on the floor nearby, her glowing eyes fixed on them. She had been watching them through the night, but her gaze wasn't unsettling. Instead, there was a sense of calm in it, a quiet presence that seemed to say she would be there if Alex needed her. "Good morning," Alex said softly, not sure if the alien could understand the greeting but feeling it was the right thing to say. The alien blinked, her eyes flashing for a moment as she processed the words. Then she smiled, if it could be called that, a small upturn of her lips. "Morning," she repeated, her voice still soft, but now carrying more of an understanding. Alex smiled back, feeling a strange sense of comfort in the alien's presence. They had been so focused on survival, on the crash, and on the unknown dangers of the planet that they hadn't stopped to appreciate the fact that they weren't alone. Despite the situation, they weren't entirely helpless. "So, what's the plan for today?" Alex asked, standing up and stretching. The night had been quiet, but their bodies still ached from the crash and the journey through the jungle. The alien didn't answer right away, instead rising to her feet with the same fluid motion that Alex had seen before. She moved toward a small alcove in the corner of the room and retrieved something from it, a bundle of vines that looked to be woven together into some sort of rope. She turned back toward Alex, holding the vines out as if offering them. "Tool," she said, the word clear but simple. Alex took the vines from her, examining them. They seemed strong, flexible, and surprisingly sturdy. "You want me to use these?" they asked, raising an eyebrow in confusion. The alien nodded. "Fix," she said simply. It was clear now that she wanted Alex to use the vines to help with something. But what? Alex glanced around the room, unsure of what needed fixing. "Fix ship," Alex guessed, holding up the vines as if they could somehow be used for repairs. The alien didn't immediately respond. She stepped forward, her eyes scanning Alex once again, as if deciding how best to explain herself. Then she pointed toward the jungle outside. "Outside. Follow," she said, her tone firm, but not unkind. Alex felt a wave of relief. It seemed that the alien was ready to help them with their ship, whatever that meant. Alex nodded and turned toward the entrance of the building, following the alien outside. The morning sun filtered through the canopy of trees, casting dappled light across the jungle floor. The air was cool but quickly warming as the sun rose higher. Alex followed the alien's steady pace, moving through the jungle as easily as if they had lived there their whole lives. Alex, however, struggled to keep up, tripping over roots and uneven ground. They had never been one for survival in the wild, and the jungle was both beautiful and intimidating at the same time. Eventually, they reached the area where Alex's ship had crashed. The wreckage was scattered across a large patch of land, smoke still curling up from the twisted remains of the ship. The sight of it reminded Alex of how far they had fallen, how alone they had been before the alien had come into their life. The alien didn't seem fazed by the wreckage at all. She walked toward the ship's remains with purpose, her eyes scanning the debris. Alex followed hesitantly, unsure of what to do. They had tried to fix the ship themselves, but it was clear that the damage was beyond their ability. Without a word, the alien crouched beside a large section of the ship's hull that had been torn open. She examined it for a moment, her glowing eyes flicking over the damaged parts. Then she motioned for Alex to join her. "Help," she said, tapping a spot on the hull. Alex knelt beside her, still unsure of how they could help, but willing to try. They looked at the damage and then back at the alien, trying to read her expression. There was no sign of frustration or anger, only a quiet determination. The alien placed her hand on the hull of the ship and began to hum softly, a low, vibrating sound that seemed to resonate through the ground beneath them. Alex watched in amazement as the ship's metal began to shift, the jagged edges slowly realigning as if responding to her touch. It was unlike anything Alex had ever seen, almost as though the alien's very presence could heal the ship. After a few moments, the metal began to settle into place, and the alien stopped humming. She stepped back, her hand still resting on the ship. The damage was still there, but it had been stabilized. It wasn't fully repaired, but it was a start. "Help," the alien repeated, looking at Alex with an almost questioning expression. Alex took a deep breath, feeling a sense of awe wash over them. The alien had done something that Alex couldn't even begin to comprehend. There was so much about this world, and the alien, Alex still didn't understand. "We need tools," Alex said, looking around for anything that might help. "Do you have anything that could fix the ship completely?" The alien didn't respond immediately. Instead, she turned and walked toward a nearby cluster of trees. Alex followed, unsure of what they were looking for, but hopeful that whatever the alien had in mind would help them get one step closer to repairing the ship and finding a way back home. Alex followed the alien through the dense jungle, their steps now more confident after the alien's earlier demonstration. The vines she had given them felt strong in their hands, but they had no idea how to use them for the ship repair. The alien, however, seemed to know exactly what she was doing, leading Alex deeper into the jungle with a sense of purpose. They walked for what seemed like hours, the sun climbing higher in the sky. The air was thick with humidity, but Alex was getting used to it now. The jungle was full of life. Strange birds chirped high in the trees, and every so often, Alex would catch a glimpse of an unusual animal moving between the dense foliage. As they moved further into the jungle, the trees began to change. The branches overhead twisted in strange patterns, creating a canopy that blocked most of the sunlight. The plants around them looked different, too, larger, more vibrant, and even a little more alive. Finally, the alien came to a stop in front of a massive tree. Its trunk was unlike any tree Alex had seen before, smooth and silvery, with glowing lines running down its bark. It looked almost like a living organism, and Alex could sense that it was something very important. The alien reached out and placed her hand on the trunk, and Alex watched in awe as the tree seemed to respond to her touch. The lines on the bark glowed brighter, and there was a low hum that filled the air. It felt as if the entire jungle was alive and resonating with the alien's presence. "Tree," the alien said simply, glancing at Alex. "Power." Alex stared at the tree, amazed. "What does it do?" they asked, their voice filled with curiosity. The alien pointed to the vines wrapped around the trunk. "Tools," she explained. It took a moment for Alex to understand. The vines were part of the tree. They weren't just plants. They were living tools. The alien had brought them here for a reason, and Alex was beginning to realize that the planet itself seemed to be full of hidden wonders and mysteries. The alien stepped forward, and with a quick motion, she began to pull at the vines. They unwound from the tree's trunk easily, their strong, flexible fibers coiling around her arm like rope. She handed them to Alex, who was still struggling to comprehend what was happening. "Use," the alien urged. Alex looked at the vines in their hands, feeling both excited and overwhelmed. They had been hoping for something to help with the ship's repairs, but they hadn't expected the solution to come from the very jungle itself. The alien was offering them not just a tool, but a piece of the planet's essence, something that was living and could help them survive. "Okay," Alex said, nodding. "Let's do this." Together, they began working with the vines. The alien showed Alex how to use them, twisting and knotting the fibers into makeshift ropes and other simple tools. They weren't sure exactly what would work, but the vines seemed to respond to their touch, adapting to their needs as they worked. It wasn't long before Alex had a bundle of vines in their hands, along with a few improvised tools that might just be strong enough to help with the ship's repairs. The sense of accomplishment was overwhelming. The alien watched them closely, her glowing eyes always alert. She didn't speak much, but her presence was enough. There was no doubt in Alex's mind that she was proud of what they had accomplished together. This wasn't just about surviving. It was about learning to live in harmony with the planet. "Good," the alien said softly, her voice calm and approving. "Now, return." With the vines secured, they began the journey back to the wreckage of the ship. The path seemed shorter this time, and Alex felt a sense of determination building inside them. They had something to work with now, something that could help them get home. When they reached the ship, the wreckage seemed less overwhelming. With the vines and tools they had gathered, Alex felt ready to take on the challenge. They weren't alone anymore. The alien had shared her knowledge with them, and together they could fix what had been broken. The alien didn't waste any time. She stepped forward and placed her hand on the ship once more. Alex watched in awe as the alien's presence seemed to make the ship hum with energy. It wasn't fully repaired yet, but there was progress. The damage to the hull had been stabilized, and the vines were now being used to reinforce some of the weaker areas. Alex worked alongside the alien, using the tools they had crafted from the vines. It was slow work, but with each small improvement, the hope of escape grew stronger. Alex knew they still had a long way to go before the ship would be spaceworthy again, but they were no longer discouraged. The alien had shown them that even in the face of the unknown, there was always a way forward. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the jungle, Alex sat back and wiped the sweat from their brow. They had made real progress that day. The ship wasn't fixed, but they were closer than ever before. "Thank you," Alex said quietly, looking at the alien. "I don't know what I would have done without you." The alien didn't speak, but her glowing eyes softened, and she gave a small nod. It was enough for Alex to know that, for the first time since their crash, they weren't truly alone. They had a partner, someone who understood this planet in a way they could never hope to. And together, they would find a way home. The days seemed to blur together as Alex and the alien worked tirelessly on the ship. The jungle had become their world. Its strange, glowing trees, its thick, vibrant foliage, and the ever-present hum of alien creatures all around them. With each passing day, Alex became more attuned to the rhythms of the planet. They had learned to navigate its dangers and understand its unique beauty. The alien had become more than just a guide. She was a partner. And together, they were building something stronger than just a way off the planet. That morning, the air felt different. It was cooler than usual, and the sky above had turned an unusual shade of violet, signaling a change in the weather. The alien seemed to notice it too, her glowing eyes narrowing as she looked toward the horizon. "Storm," she said simply, pointing to the sky. Alex squinted, trying to make sense of the alien's warning. They had seen the strange weather patterns before, but it never seemed to be a threat. Still, the intensity in the alien's voice made Alex hesitate. "What kind of storm?" Alex asked, looking around for shelter. The alien didn't answer immediately. Instead, she turned and motioned for Alex to follow. Without a word, they both moved quickly through the jungle, the alien leading the way with her swift, graceful movements. As they moved deeper into the jungle, the winds began to pick up. The trees swayed, their branches creaking ominously in the breeze. The sky above darkened, and strange, low rumblings filled the air. Alex felt a knot form in their stomach. They had no idea what kind of storm was coming, but they knew it wasn't something they could ignore. The alien led them to a small cave tucked away beneath a cliffside, its entrance hidden by thick vines and moss. Alex ducked inside, feeling the temperature drop as they entered the cool, dark space. The alien seemed unfazed, her glowing eyes casting an eerie light in the otherwise dark cave. "Wait here," the alien said, before disappearing into the jungle again, leaving Alex alone in the cave. Alex sat down, their mind racing. They had come so far since the crash, but now they were facing a storm they didn't understand. The alien had never seemed worried, but Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The planet felt different today, darker, more alive, as if it were preparing for something. Time seemed to stretch as Alex waited. The wind outside howled, and the cave trembled as if the storm was already beginning to take its toll. Alex had no idea what the alien was doing, but they trusted her. She had proven time and time again that she knew this planet far better than they ever could. And more importantly, she had never let them down. Minutes turned into hours, and just as Alex was beginning to wonder if they should go out and find the alien, the sound of footsteps echoed through the cave. The alien appeared, her face unreadable, but her posture was tense. "They come," she said, her voice low. Alex didn't need to ask who they were. The alien's tone made it clear that whatever was coming was not something to take lightly. Before Alex could respond, the ground beneath them began to shake. A deep rumble filled the cave, growing louder with each passing second. The walls vibrated, and small rocks tumbled down from the ceiling. Then the sky outside seemed to explode in a flash of blinding light. The storm had arrived in full force, and it wasn't like anything Alex had ever experienced. The alien stepped forward, her eyes glowing brighter than usual. She raised her arms, as if calling to something unseen. Alex watched, bewildered and a little frightened. What was she doing? Why had she gone out into the storm? Then they saw it, a massive shape, dark against the flashing sky, moving toward them with unnatural speed. The ground shook again as it approached. Alex instinctively took a step back, unsure of what they were facing. The alien's expression remained calm, even as the storm raged around them. She spoke in a low voice, a language Alex couldn't understand, and the massive figure slowly came to a halt in front of them. It was a creature like nothing Alex had ever seen. It stood at least 10 feet tall, with thick, armored skin that seemed to shimmer in the storm's light. Its eyes glowed with the same eerie intensity as the alien's, and its movements were smooth, almost fluid. Despite its massive size, it didn't appear threatening. It was more like a guardian, standing silently as the storm continued to rage. "The protectors," the alien said, her voice quiet but full of reverence. "They help." Alex looked at the alien, then at the creature. The tension in their bodies slowly eased. The alien wasn't scared. She wasn't worried. If anything, she was confident. "Help," Alex repeated, unsure of what was happening. The alien nodded. "Storm strong, but they keep safe." Alex watched in awe as the creature turned its massive head toward the storm. With a sudden motion, it raised its arm, and the wind seemed to shift. The storm, which had been howling just moments before, began to calm, the winds dying down and the rumbling subsiding. The creature's power was undeniable. It was as if the storm itself had been tamed by its mere presence. As the storm began to subside, Alex felt a sense of awe. This planet, with all its strange and mysterious qualities, was more than just a place to survive. It was alive, connected to the creatures that lived here in ways Alex couldn't fully understand. And the alien, with her connection to it all, was far more than just a guide. She was a part of it. The storm finally passed, leaving behind a stillness that felt almost surreal. Alex looked at the alien and the creature, feeling the deep sense of gratitude. They had been saved, not just by luck, but by the strange, powerful forces of the planet itself. The alien looked at Alex, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Now," she said, "we continue." The storm had passed, and with it, a new sense of peace settled over the jungle. The air was cooler, the trees swaying gently in the breeze, and the sky above was clearing, revealing a canvas of stars. Alex stood at the edge of the cave, looking out at the vast, mysterious world that had once felt so hostile, now feeling strangely welcoming. The alien stood beside them, her glowing eyes reflecting the quiet beauty of the planet. There was no need for words between them now. They had been through so much together, each challenge pushing them further into understanding one another. Alex turned to her, the questions that had been on their mind for so long now seeming insignificant in the face of what they had accomplished. "How do you do it?" Alex asked, breaking the silence. "How do you stay so calm, so sure?" The alien smiled, a faint but genuine expression that softened her usually stoic face. "This planet, it speaks to me. It shows me things, and I listen. We are not so different. You have learned, too, Alex." Alex paused, considering her words. "I never thought I'd make it out of here. But now, I don't want to leave." The alien tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "Why?" Alex looked around at the jungle. the creatures, and the stars above. Because I found something here. Something I never thought I'd find. The alien nodded slowly, as if understanding something unspoken. For a long time, neither of them spoke. They simply stood there, side by side, feeling the presence of the planet around them. The massive creature that had helped them earlier now stood just beyond the trees, watching over them. Its eyes, glowing softly, seemed to say that it, too, was at peace. The alien had called it a protector, and Alex now saw it as a guardian of this strange, beautiful place. There was no fear, no doubt. It was as if the planet had decided to accept them, and in turn, they had accepted it. You know, Alex said, finally breaking the silence again, I used to think that survival was about escaping, about getting out of the danger. But now, I see it's more about understanding where you are. It's about being a part of it. The alien's glowing eyes softened, and she placed a hand on Alex's shoulder. You've learned more than you think. Alex looked at her and smiled. For the first time since the crash, they felt a sense of belonging, not just to the alien, but to the planet itself. The jungle, the creatures, the storms, it wasn't something to escape from. It was something to understand, to live with. We could stay, Alex said, the words feeling natural, as if they had been thinking them all along. We could find a way to live here, together. The alien's eyes sparkled, the faintest hint of a smile playing at her lips. We could. For a moment, they both stood in silence, the weight of the decision settling between them. Alex had come to this planet expecting to fight for survival. They had been lost, confused, and desperate. But now, that feeling was gone. What they had found here wasn't just a way off the planet. It was a new way of looking at the world, a new way of living. I think we should, Alex said, their voice steady. Let's make this our home. The alien nodded. I am glad you think so. It wasn't just a decision to stay. It was a choice to embrace the unknown, to trust in something larger than themselves. Alex wasn't sure what the future held, but they knew one thing. They weren't alone anymore. They had the alien, the creatures of the jungle, and the planet itself. As the night grew deeper, the stars above shone brighter, as if in approval. The massive creature moved closer, its presence a constant reminder of the strange, powerful forces that had guided them. The jungle, once an alien place, now felt like home. We have a lot of work ahead of us, Alex said, breaking the peaceful silence. The alien chuckled softly. Yes, but we will do it together. With that, they turned toward the jungle, ready to face whatever the future held. They had learned to survive, but now they were ready to live. Side by side, they would navigate this wild, untamed planet, carving out a future together. And for the first time, Alex felt the warmth of hope in their chest, a hope that no storm or danger could ever take away. The adventure had only just begun, but they were no longer lost. They were home.